In this video, we will have a brief overview of the structure and function of the kidney. Our kidney has many functions, and this includes both endocrine functions and exocrine functions. You probably think of the kidney as the organ that regulates the volume and composition of our body fluids. This is because the kidneys receive a large amount of blood. In fact, they get 25% of our cardiac output while we're resting. If you're looking for the kidneys, you can find them on either side of the spine, outside of the peritoneal cavity, and you'll see an organ that's about the size of a fist. The functional unit of the kidney is the nephron. Within the nephron, you'll see two types of capillaries. We have the glomerular capillaries here that filter the blood, and the peritubular capillaries that surround the tubules to help with urine formation. Our tubules include our proximal convoluted tubule. This is our convoluted tubule here, which then loops down into the loop of Henle. And then we have the distal convoluted tubule, which then dumps into the collecting duct. The glomerulus is made up of a compact cluster of capillaries that are encased in a thin double-walled capsule called the Bowman capsule. Blood flows into the glomerular capillaries from the afferent arteriole and out of the glomerular capillaries from the efferent arteriole, which then leads into the peritubular capillaries. Fluid and solutes from the blood are filtered through the capillary membrane into a fluid-filled space in the Bowman capsule called the Bowman space here. The portion of blood that is filtered into this capsule is called the filtrate. The glomerular capillary membrane here is made of 3 layers. There's a capillary endothelial layer, a basement membrane, and a single-celled capsular epithelial layer. The basement membrane is what determines the permeability of the glomerular capillary membrane, and it provides a size-dependent barrier. So when we looked at the glomerulus, we saw where blood flows through the glomerulus, and some of it gets filtered out and enters into the Bowman space within the Bowman capsule. That then opens into our tubular areas. Remember that our tubules are surrounded by peritubular capillaries, and so this allows the exchange of electrolytes and nutrients across the tubules with the capillaries so that we can maintain homeostasis and eliminate waste into the urine as needed. Movement of this fluid is driven by the capillary hydrostatic or filtration pressure, by the capillary colloidal osmotic or reabsorptive pressure, and by capillary permeability. As our fluids move through the tubules, they will exchange substances with the blood. Different substances are moved in and out of the tubules at different locations. In the proximal convoluted tubule, most of the mineral salts move through diffusion or active transport. And this is where all glucose and amino acids are moved in and out of the tubules. Most of the water happens here on the descending loop of Henle through osmosis, and a little bit as you get to the end. In the distal convoluted tubule, you have exchange of some mineral salts through active transport, which requires energy, and the collecting duct has some water that can leave through osmosis. In the end, we end up with urine, which is our metabolic waste that includes urea, creatinine, uric acid, and then excesses of water and mineral salts that the body no longer needs. Our kidneys have several elimination functions. One is what we call renal clearance. This is defined as the volume of plasma cleared each minute of any substance that finds its way into the urine, which is a kind of ridiculous way to say renal clearance is how much of a particular substance is secreted in the urine based on however much plasma goes through. So renal clearance could look at things such as urea or potassium. Another important function of the kidney is electrolyte regulation. This is primarily regulated by a glomerular filtration rate, which you'll see as GFR. This is how much blood flows through the glomerulus each minute. This is primarily how we regulate sodium and potassium. But electrolyte regulation is helped by hormones, including things such as aldosterone and atrial natriuretic peptide. Our kidneys are important in regulating our pH. It does this through holding on to or conserving bicarbonate and eliminating hydrogen ion when needed. The kidneys are key in eliminating our waste products, including uric acid, which is a byproduct of purine metabolism, and urea, which is a byproduct of general protein metabolism. And our kidneys are important in eliminating drugs that we have metabolized. Our kidneys also have endocrine functions, so they secrete hormones that provide important functions in the body. This includes participation in the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which regulates our blood pressure, production of erythropoietin, which stimulates red blood cell production in the bone marrow, and activation of vitamin D, which is required for calcium absorption and other calcium-related functions. Let's do a quick review of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system and see where the kidney plays a role. We have specialized cells within the kidney called juxtaglomerular or JG cells. These cells are modified smooth muscle cells that line the afferent arteriole. These cells can contract or relax in response to ATP or adenosine, and therefore they can regulate blood flow to the glomerulus. But their endocrine function includes secreting renin to activate the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. When the JG cells of the kidney release renin, that then will help to convert angiotensinogen, which is made by the liver, into angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 then travels to the lungs, where it encounters angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE. This converts angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 can then directly cause widespread vasoconstriction at the arterioles, and it can travel to the adrenal cortex to stimulate the release of aldosterone. Aldosterone then loops back to the kidneys, where it leads to sodium reabsorption, and water follows that sodium, leading to an increase in blood volume and thus blood pressure. So by this release of renin, we increase our blood pressure two ways. One, we increase our vascular resistance through increasing vasoconstriction, and we increase our vascular resistance through increasing our blood volume. And then finally, let's look at a few tests of renal function. These in light red here are all blood tests, and they include your blood urea nitrogen, your creatinine, and your glomerular filtration rate. Blood urea nitrogen measures how much urea has been left in the blood. You know, we talked about how that normally is excreted out of the kidneys. When your BUN is high, that can mean two things. It can mean one, that you have some sort of damage to the kidney, or it could just mean that you're dehydrated. So you want to look at other tests in addition to the BUN. We also look at the creatinine. Creatinine is a good indicator of renal impairment when it's high. We also look at the glomerular filtration rate. That's the volume of blood filtered through the glomerulus every minute. A normal glomerular filtration rate is around 90 milliliters per minute. And when that's low, that could indicate a decrease in renal function. In fact, glomerular filtration rate is often how we define kidney disease. You can also look in the urine to find out some things about renal function. Urinary output should be at least 30 milliliters per hour. So when urinary output gets lower than that, that could indicate renal injury or impairment. We also have a normal specific gravity of our urine. This looks at how many solutes we have in our urine. And when that's high, that generally means that someone is dehydrated. And this is our brief overview of the renal system.